So I finally finished wiring this up. Now each of these fans has been converted to a generator, remember, and the generator is wired into a little rectifier there, and then from each rectifier I've taken the plus and the minus, and they're arranged in columns. So there's a column that way and a row that way. There are 10 rows and 9 columns. There are 10 columns and 9 rows. So in each column I've wired the fans in parallel to each other, so the ampage adds up but the voltage remains the same, and those are the output wires for one of those columns. Now here they're individual, so I can test them individually just to see if I've got an error. But when I've tested those, I can wire those up again in series or parallel to get the final output. Now all we've got to do is get a bit of wind on this and get some readings from it. Okay, so I measure that wind speed with this little anemometer here, and it gives me a wind speed about 2.4 meters per second, something like that. And when I read the meter, we got 200 milliamps at 1.7 volts, giving me about 3.4 watts. This is 1.2 meters by 1.08 meters, so that's the kind of area you're looking at. Now, I'm pretty sure this is all very ballpark, because it's not hugely accurately read. But it is telling me we are in the ballpark, so this is performing quite nicely actually, given the rough and ready readings and the fact that we're in a car park in Canterbury. No doubt we get this up, then we'll get a better reading out of it. If I had a wind tunnel, wouldn't that be awesome? I don't. So little anemometer is giving me a guide to where we are with this thing, and where we are with this thing I think is pretty acceptable given the cost that it cost me to make, because as far as I can see, it's performing at about the same level as any wind turbine of this area would perform. So I realised actually when I was shooting the main video that I'd forgotten to mention the test conditions. I know it's going to cause people to complain. So I had that little anemometer to read the wind speed, and the wind speed varied between about 0.8 meters per second and about 3 meters per second. It was tested under a resistive load, so basically I put a light bulb on it, a filament light bulb, and I read the voltage and the ampage separate, which I know you're supposed to read them the same. But you got to remember, this is not an absolute 100% scientific thing where we can say categorically, hey, that performs such and such. All we're doing is building a wind wall out of old PC fans and see if it can produce an acceptable amount, and turns out, given the wind speed, actually it really can. It's pretty much on a par with a wind turbine that you would in fact buy. HAWT type is the type that I measured against. Taking the HAWT to have a 0.6 metre blade length and the same wind speed and what the expected output would be, this performs in the region of that, it would seem, and that's good enough for me, and it's certainly good enough to suggest to me that building a turbine of that type from scrap materials you found lying around is probably worth your effort of doing. It was a considerable amount of effort, obviously, nowhere near, far in excess of the Savonius type. And remember, we have done 2 of these different types. So if anybody's really got a complaint with what I did in terms of recording the measurements, then hey, you know the answer. Build one yourself and see. It's quite easy to do. A little time consuming, but not particularly technically challenging. It certainly, I thought, was of great interest, and it answered a question that a few people have asked me, specifically a couple of members have asked me to look at this. And so I diverted the wind wall experiments to compare it to the PC fan. But of course we still have, as I say, that Savonius type. Okay, so clearly I've made myself 2 wind walls. This one, a Savonius type, if you remember, made from water guttering and builder's board, and this one made from PC fans. Now, that one was pointed out to me as an artist's drawing, which I then put into real life. And this one was suggested by somebody, a couple of people actually, to give it a go and see what happened. So I've built them both, and they both respond actually surprisingly well. Now, of course, the next thing you really want to do is have a kind of wind wall face-off, or if you like, a wall-off. So my friend from Intelligent Tinkering, Ross, has came down and said, hey Rob, how about we stick those in a van and take them up on a hill? So in a couple of weeks, that's exactly what we're going to do. It's a couple of weeks because I still have a little bit to do with this. This one, remember, is 20 centimetres across and 24 centimetres between centres. I think we can place those much closer, and that's what I want to do with that. This one is the one that we've been testing in this video. Anyway, watch out for the up-and-coming video. I hope you enjoyed this one so far. Thank you very much for watching, and please remember to like and subscribe.